All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We are going to do a session talking about how to obtain a social security number and the process for obtaining a driver's license in the state of Indiana. The first part of this will be the social security number presentation. This presentation will be less than 15 minutes. At the end of that, we'll take a few questions and then we'll just go ahead and roll over into the BMV presentation. We do have someone on the call from the BMV. I'll let her introduce herself once we get to that section. So this is a webinar style, so I will not be able to see any of the students' faces. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A chat at the bottom of the screen, and I will answer those at the end of the presentation. Okay, we're going to share screen here and get started. All right. So as I said, this is going to be the social security number presentation. This is only going to be about 4 slides, so it's really quick. As I said, if you have any questions, just go ahead and put them in the chat and I will answer them at the end. So first, we're going to talk about what the social security number is. So the social security number is a 9-digit number issued by the Social Security Administration. You have this one number for life. So us as U.S. citizens, we get the number once we're born. But once you arrive, student, you will apply for the number and you will have that number for life. So if you come to the U.S. at another time and stay and you're required to have a social security number, you will already have that number. Typically, you would use the social security number to report your wages to the U.S. government. You use it for tax purposes, and you would use the social security number for some other services that I'll mention in tax. So to be eligible to obtain a social security number, you must be receiving payment from a U.S. institution. And the payment also includes any fellowships, scholarships, or grants that you're receiving from the university. Or you must have a job in the U.S. that is starting within 30 days. If you have a job or you're anticipating getting a job later on down the line, they will not approve you for a social security number until your job is within 30 days. Once you apply for the social security number, which I'll get to in a later slide, it's very quick. It's around 2 weeks for you to get the number. Why do you need the number? Generally, you will need the number if you want to set up a bank account, if you're trying to apply for any any credit cards, if you want to obtain any loans. It's also requested by the BMV, which is the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, when applying for a driver's license. Sometimes it's used to run credit checks if you want to lease in an apartment or obtain a car loan while you're here. So, when you can apply for the social security number, it varies if you're an F or a J on the F or J visa. So if you're here on an F visa, you must wait 2 weeks after you register with our office once you arrive on campus. So currently now this week, we're doing registration for the new students who started in spring. Once you meet with an ISSA advisor and we process your registration, you'll get an email from us letting you know registration has been complete. And then 2 weeks after you receive that email from us is when you can begin the process. For J visas, which goes through a different system, you have to wait 48 hours. So just to reiterate, for F students, you're going to wait 2 weeks. For J students, you're going to wait 2 business days, so a total of 48 hours. There's also something called a letter of ineligibility, and this can assist you with if you need to obtain a driver's license or a set up a bank account. So the process has changed to apply for the social security number due to COVID. So currently, it's time for you to begin the process. You will have to fax all of your documents to the Social Security number, to the Social Security office, and then you have to wait 5 business days to contact them. Then once you contact them and let them know that you faxed over your documentation, you provide them with your name, and you need to set up an appointment. They will schedule an appointment with you to come physically to the office. And then once you go to the office, you will take your actual documents with you. So you're going to take the original passport and visa and all your original documentation. They're going to compare it with what you sent them to make sure everything matches and you are who you say you are. Once they process the information, they'll send you on your way. After the appointment, you will not get your card nor number right then and there during that appointment. What will happen is usually it takes within 2 to 3 weeks, you'll have it processed. They'll mail the card to whatever address you put on the application. So once you get that Social Security card, you have to give that number to Human Resources here on campus or to your employer. You don't have to give that number to anyone else on campus. So in order to apply for the Social Security number, you must first have a letter from your employer on campus if you're a student. You would then upload that letter to your ISSALink account, and then our office will generate a second letter for you. And then once we generate that second letter for you, you would complete the Social Security application, which is online, and then take copies of your passport, your visa, your I-94 record, and your I-20. So the 2 letters, the application, and the supporting documents are all what you will fax down to the Social Security office. And then once you go for your actual appointments, you will then again take both letters and the Social Security application, but then this time physically take your passport book with the visa stamp, your original I-20, and a copy of your I-94 record. And then that's the entire process for the Social Security application. After you fill out the application and you go to the appointment, you're basically just waiting for it to be approved, and then they just send you the card to you directly. So in a quick nutshell, that is it for the Social Security part. So I'm going to look and see if there's any questions for that before we switch on to the BMV presentation. Does anyone have any questions at the moment? Okay, one moment, we got one question. Shall I fax the original letter issued by Liz? Yes, so you will fax all the documents over. So you'll fax our original letter, you'll fax the letter from your employer, the copy of your passport, the copy of your visa, your I-94 record, and your I-20. And then, so you'll fax that, but then when you go to the actual appointment, you're going to carry the originals down with you. How can I get a letter from my employer? So once you start working, the employer should know that you will need a offer letter. And basically the letter is just saying that it says your name, it says what your position is, and then it says how many hours a week that you'll be working. And that letter has to be printed on the department letterhead. So if you're working for an employer on campus, they know the procedure, they know how to complete all of this information. Letter from the employers were provided by the department. Yes, so whatever department you are working for will provide you the original letter. So if you're working at Starbucks, Starbucks will give you the original letter that states that you're an employee there. And then you'll upload that letter to your ISSALink account, and then our office will generate the second letter for you. How can I fax the documents? So there are a couple of fax machines across campus. I do know that there is one at FedEx in the basement of the fund. I do believe that there is also one at Hesburgh Library. Some departments have them, and I know there is one at the post office on campus. And then if you have any other difficulties, you can contact our office and we can help you get the documents faxed over as well. Okay. So it does not look like there are any more questions pertaining to the Social Security number. That was the shortest and the simplest of them all. So now we're going to move on to the BMV presentation. I'm going to go through a presentation. Then if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. And we do have Miss Lori here from our local BMV to answer any questions that you may have. So again, you just want to put your chats in the Q&A and we will get to them at the end. And if you want to just go ahead and introduce yourself, Miss Lori, and tell us a little bit, and then I will get started.
Hi, I'm Lori. I work at the South Bend License Branch. It is located on Ireland Road. The other location that actually is closer to campus is the Mishawaka License Branch, and it is in the Town and Country Plaza. So both locations, you can go to either, does not matter which. And I believe the video that she has for you, or PowerPoint, is going to give you a lot of information of what you need to bring in order to obtain an Indiana permit, driver's license, or even an ID card.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me share my screen again. And it's thinking. Okay. So right now we're just going to go over a couple of definitions. So Bureau of Motor Vehicles, or BMV as we call it. So it's the state agency in Indiana responsible for regulating vehicles and licensing drivers. Your driver's license is the document that permits an individual to drive a car within the US. And then the international driving permit is the document obtained in your home country that translate the license into 10 languages valid to drive in the US for 1 year. Okay, so we have 4 different scenarios that we're going to go over here real briefly, and then I'm going to go over them a little more in depth after this slide. So the first scenario that could possibly obtain you is that you have a valid unexpired driver's license from your home country and you have an official international driving permit, or you have a valid unexpired driver's license from your home country without an international driving permit. You do not have a driver's license from your home country, or you have a valid driver's license from another state. So those are the 4 scenarios we will be discussing here this afternoon. Okay. So the international driving permit and non-US driver's license. So when driving, you must carry your driver's license and your international driving permit at all times. So with the translated non-US driver's license, you are eligible to take the written exam and vision screening immediately. Again, you must have both in order to do this, driver's license and the driving permit. You can do that immediately. So for the non-US driver's license, you need an official translation of your driver's license. One thing to note is that our office does not have the bandwidth to translate that. There are not translating services on campus. So on our website, there is a list of places where you might have to go through a translation service, and there may be a fee associated with that. So there are some places where, like, maybe if there's a professor somewhere on campus that can translate the license for you. The only thing is you cannot translate your own documentation, and neither can a family member, nor can you translate a family member's. So to be eligible to apply for US driver's license, you must complete the driving skills test, a written exam, and a vision screening. And all of this will happen at the BMV location. If you do not have any license, so you will first need to obtain a learner's permit at the BMV, and then you'll need to follow the instructions for the learning permit and pass the driver's test and obtain a license. So with the learning permit, it basically allows you 180 days of practice with the licensed driver beside you, learning and getting practice before a driver's license will be issued for you. So after you practice for this 180 days, you will still have to go back to the BMV and then do the driver's test and the eye test in order to attain your driver's license. Driver's license from another state. So you will need to take the written exam and vision sprint. And then you have to make sure that when you go to the BMV, that you take that current driver's license down to the location with you, whichever one you choose to go to. So on this page is going to show you a couple of documents that are required in order for you to obtain license. So the most important thing is you need something that proves your identity, that verifies whom you are. So you can do that with your valid passport, and then an F or J visa, and then your current I-94 record. So for the passport and visa, those are together in one document. For the I-94 record, you want to make sure that you actually print it out, so you're not showing it to them on whatever device you may have. You want to actually print it out and have the paper copy with you. Documents that provide proves that you have lawful status in the U.S. That's also your passport, visa, and I-94 record. And it's also your form I-20 if you're an F student, or your DS-2019 if you're here on a J visa. Documentation to prove your social security number. So you'll want to take the social security card, have it at that time, or your letter of ineligibility. Or you can provide the pay stub if you have your pay stub with your full name and your full social security number on there. You also have to provide two documents that verify that you are an Indiana resident. So generally that can be any type of bill that comes to your address in your name. It can be a pay stub, credit card statements. It can be a lease from your apartment if you're leasing, if you're a graduate student. For undergraduate students, if you're living in a dorm on campus, you can go to or contact the Office of Residential Life, and they can verify that you're living in a dorm on campus with the address. So we're going to go over a couple of things about driving while you are in the U.S. The main thing to notice for us is that if you purchase a car, you must have registration for the car, your license plate, title, auto insurance. Here in the U.S., you actually cannot drive off the parking lot without having insurance for your vehicle. There's fees that must be renewed annually. And then if you bring a car from another state, you want to make sure that you register this car in Indiana. So just so you know off top, I am not an insurance agency. I can't really go into more detail about, the different costs and what's associated with these things, but just going to give you a brief introduction about some different types of insurance that you may need. So the three main are liability, collision, and comprehensive. The liability will cover damage to vehicles and property and some of the medical costs that may result in an accident where you were cited as the primary cause of the collision. If you get collision insurance, this covers the cost of repairs to your own vehicle, usually after you pay an out-of-pocket deductible. And then comprehensive cover acts of vandalism, theft, damage as a result of natural disaster, like a tree branch falling on your car, or if you have a hailstorm. So this is just some of the coverages. You will want to make sure that you're speaking with a license to get information about insurance. Okay, so we're just going to briefly touch on a few things about driving in the U.S. And as I said, I can't see the chat right now, but if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A and I will answer them after the end. And then we'll see if Ms. Lori will be able to help us with some of the questions that we have as well. So in some places, I was told that it is customary, like if you want to get around cars, you can just drive down the shoulder to get to where you're going. Here, we cannot do that. So you just want to make sure that you're staying in the lane. You're not going to drive on any of the shoulders. You do not want to drive in the median. You must stay within your driving lanes. Here, defensively, no rules about only responsible for what is in front of you. I want to make sure that you are always wearing your seat belts and carrying your driver's license, registration, insurance documents with you at all times. And then you want to make sure you're paying attention to our signs, red yellow, and road work signs, which are the orange. You want to make sure here that whenever you are driving down the road and you see any emergency vehicle coming behind you with their lights and sirens on or just their lights on, you want to make sure you pull over to the right. If you're in the far right, and just pull over to the right and make sure you let them pass. One thing we want to make sure that you know, in some places it's customary for, if you're ever pulled over by a law enforcement for you to exit the vehicle and approach them. Here, we want to make sure you do not do that. If you're pulled over by law enforcement, you just want to make sure you stay in your car, keep your hands visible, wait for him or her to approach you and let you know what you need to do. Listen to their commands and do not exit the vehicle and approach them. So we know in countries, they tell you that you do not want to drink and drive. Definitely here, you don't want to drink and drive, because a conviction of that could impact your visa and your ability to re-enter the US in the future, in any other visa status at all. You also want to make sure that you're aware and know that laws vary by state. So a lot of people visit Chicago or Michigan because those are both really close, and their driving laws are different than what we have in Indiana. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to those. And just something quick, that as of now, driving in the winter, we have something that's called black ice here, where you can't see it until you hit it. So you just want to make sure that you're driving very slow, make sure your lights are on while you're driving. And one important thing is, if it has snowed, make sure you clear the snow off of your lights in the front of your car so other vehicles can see when you are approaching. So where are the BMVs located? Miss Lori mentioned this earlier. So there are two locations. The South Bend location is where Miss Lori is, and that's on East Ireland Road in South Bend, on the south side of South Bend. And then the Mishawaka branch is in the Town and Country Shopping Plaza, as she mentioned, which is the closest to campus. Something that you want to remember is that you must wear a mask at all times when you go. There will be, if you have to wait in line, you have to wait outside until you're called. I actually just went the other day with my daughter to get a driver's permit. And as you walk up, they'll ask you why you're there, make sure you have your documents, and then hand you a number. And then once they're below capacity where they can let more people in, they'll usher you in, let you know where to sit. And then you just wait until you hear your number called to proceed to the window and let them know what you're there to do. And also, you want to make sure you're practicing social distancing as much as possible. But as I said, once you go into the BMV, they have the chairs socially distanced in there, so you don't want to move it to sit close to your friends or whomever come with you. You just want to make sure that you sit where you're supposed to and stand and just wait until they call upon you for to be serviced. Okay, so this is just letting you know that there's more information on our website at issa.edu. And you can also go to the BMV website, which is www.in.gov/BMV. So that was just the real quick let me stop this so I can see the chat. So that was just the real quick of what I have for the BMV presentation. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and I'll read them out loud so Miss Lori can see them, because I'm not sure she can see the chat, and then we'll get your questions answered.
I can see them.
You can?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So we're going to log in and see. So for the first case, both driver's license. Don't I have to take driving skill exam? Can I get a U.S. driver's license after taking written exam and vision screening?
So do you, for the first question, do you have an out-of-country license?
So we would just need to know if you have, because you would have to have an international driving permit as well.
But if you don't have a out of state license, you do have to take the written and pass that, and you do have to take the drive test. So even if you have a international permit. Does that answer your question?
If you could type back in and let us know if that answered your question, then we'll just go ahead and move to the next one. The driver's license card is already in English. Do I still need it translated?
If your driver's license, your out-of-country license has English subheadings, then you do not have to have a translation.
Okay. I need a small clarification. So if I have an international driving license, does that mean that I only need to do the written and vision screening?
No, you'll have to take the written and the drive.
So you'll have to do both. Okay. I have my driver's license from my country and international driver's license also. So that was the follow-up to the first question.
It is, correct.
Great, thank you. Next question. How do I obtain an Indiana state ID? Is it by visiting the BMV office at South Bend with all the official documents?
That is correct. You still require the same documents, except for you don't have to have a driver's license from another state or out of country. But you still have to have your passport, visa, I-94, your I-20 or DS-1, is that right? DS-120?
Yep, DS 2019.
DS-219, proof of Social Security, or the letter stating you don't have you're ineligible, and 2 proofs of your address.
And then as we mentioned, the proof of address. So if you're an undergraduate, you can get something from the Office of Residential Life. If you are leasing an apartment, that will be found on your lease. So sometimes a lot of students ask us to verify their address and we cannot do that. So it would have to be your lease from your apartment, or if you're in a dorm, it comes from the Office of Residential Life. Do we have any other questions? Or is there anything you want to add, Ms. Lori?
Oh, I do see that someone's got a question. You do not need to schedule an appointment to visit our office. One thing that I neglected to say is if you're needing to take the written test or a computer test, you need to be at our office at least an hour prior to closing. So as long as you're here before 4 o'clock, you don't have to make an appointment. It is just walk in.
And I will say, I do know that your office is still closed on Mondays, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So our hours of operation for the Mishawaka location and also the South Bend location is Tuesday from 8:30 to 6:30, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 8:30 to 5, and Saturdays, which are very busy, 8:30 to 12:30. So you would need to be there at least an hour prior to closing with all of your documents in order to be allowed to take a written test. You do have to schedule an appointment for the drive test. That does require an appointment. You can go online to do that, but don't schedule a branch appointment. Schedule a skills test appointment.
Do we have any other questions? Oh, let's see, one just popped up. Where can I obtain an international driver permit? I have a driver's. So the international driver's permit you have to obtain in your home country. So if you don't already have it, you won't be able to get it here in the US.
But that's okay.
That's yes. If you have the international driving permit, that will just allow you to drive here for 1 year before getting our driver's license. But if you don't already have it, you can't obtain it here in the US.
And also the international permit usually has your translation.
Mm-hmm. Great questions. Any more? If you have any, this is a great opportunity to ask while we have a representative from the BMV on the call.
Our website has got a lot of information. I think you'll be able to find a lot of your questions that you have. It also has a link to our manual for you to study for the test.
I bought a car but didn't know that a social security number would be required for the car registration. Within how many days do I have to complete the registration? What will happen if I don't get my SSN by that period?
After purchasing a vehicle, you have 45 days to title and register it.
So yeah. So as long as you don't have any issues, if I've never known for it to take 45 days for anyone to obtain a social security number, so it's fine.
A social security number is not a requirement for a state ID, but you would have to have the letter of ineligibility. We have to have one or the other.
So we have to have one or the other for the ID. Great questions. Any more questions? I'll give it one more minute. If not, I will stay on the line for a little longer to see if there's any questions. If not, we are all done. No final thoughts or questions? All right, well, everyone have a great first week of class and talk to everyone later. Thank you, Miss Lori.
You're welcome. Good to see you.
See you, bye-bye.